How did white flight affect schools? Have you ever wondered how the movement of families out of cities shaped the education landscape in America? White flight refers to the mass migration of white families from urban areas to suburban or rural locations, especially after the American Civil War. This shift was largely in response to the desegregation of schools, which was a direct result of the legacy of slavery and racial inequality. When schools began to integrate, many white parents opposed these changes. They chose to leave public school systems that started admitting black students. This decision led to a sharp drop in white enrollment in urban public schools. The effects of this migration on schools were significant. First, we saw increased segregation. Even with legal efforts to desegregate schools, white flight often led to resegregation. White families clustered in suburban districts while black families remained in urban centers. This created racially imbalanced school districts and undermined desegregation efforts. Next, the decline in school funding became apparent. Public schools depend heavily on local property taxes for their budgets. As white families moved to wealthier suburbs, urban schools lost a large part of their tax base. This loss of funding meant fewer resources for schools in cities, which directly impacted the quality of education. Lower educational achievement followed. With diminished funding and increased segregation, urban schools faced challenges like overcrowding and reduced resources. Schools with higher concentrations of minority students often struggled with lower academic performance. Neighborhood segregation tactics also played a role. Practices like redlining, which denied mortgages or insurance in certain areas, and blockbusting, which encouraged white homeowners to sell cheaply by stoking racial fears, reinforced residential segregation. This directly influenced school demographics and further entrenched inequality. Social and economic isolation became another consequence of white flight. It separated students not just by race but also by socioeconomic status. This separation limited access to diverse social networks and job opportunities for minority students. From the perspective of the American Civil War's legacy, white flight can be seen as a continuation of racial inequality. Although the Civil War abolished slavery, the following decades saw ongoing efforts to maintain racial segregation and inequality, especially in education. White flight was a reaction to the slow progress toward racial integration, reflecting resistance to the social changes initiated by the Civil War and Reconstruction. In practical terms, white flight complicated the creation of equitable public education systems. It forced policymakers and courts to address the challenges of segregation, not only within schools but across entire metropolitan areas. This phenomenon highlighted how deeply racial divisions persisted long after the Civil War and shaped educational opportunities for generations.